Pastor Bakare today met with President Buhari in Abuja. Afterwards, he's asking for restructuring of Nigeria, but he says it has to be done without violence. And the National Economic Council today is asking those planning protests to commemorate a year since the EndSARS protest in Lagos to rethink their ideas. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Politics Today this Friday. I'm Shehu and welcome to our studio here in Abuja, in the nation's capital. Let's begin by telling you that the National Economic Council has asked those planning EndSARS protests to rethink the idea and seek alternative means of communicating with the government. The council says that this is because of security situation in the country and has urged organizers to consider other options. There are reports of plans of protests to mark the anniversary of EndSARS. The government says organizers should reconsider the option in view of current security situation across the country and the possibility of such protests being hijacked by armed hoodlums and other opportunistic criminals to cause mayhem at such protest events and venues. Before we dissect our major conversation for tonight, we have some of your political roundup stories.
As the Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi enters the final year of his administration, he's promising to work till his last day in office and not to get distracted by the coming elections. Governor Fayemi, who is also the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, in his State of the State address to the legislature, as part of his third anniversary in office, runs through some of his administration's achievements across various sectors and called on those interested in succeeding him to play by the rules.
God has helped us to keep and fulfill this promise so far. But there are still many rivers of development to cross. I'm using this opportunity to reiterate to Ekiti that there will be no unfinished projects. The fourth year, Mr. Speaker, is also a year of elections, in which my successor in office will be elected. I urge you all to play by the rules and avoid politics of bitterness.
It's less than 24 hours to the state congresses of the APC and PDP across the country. For the ruling party in Ogun State, the 7-man State Congress Committee says it is ready for the process, which will hold in Abeokuta, the state capital. The chairman of the APC Congress Committee, who was speaking at the party secretariat after a meeting with elected party chairmen and secretaries from the 20 local government areas of the state, asks delegates and party faithful to comport themselves in a peaceful manner to ensure smooth conduct of the state Congress.
The loyalty they've always expressed and the discipline they've expressed, for them to maintain it, so that, like the other ones we've had, it will be a successful and peaceful one.
In Kano State, some party leaders have debunked claims of a divided Congress emanating from a petition written to the APC national headquarters by Senator Ibrahim Shekarau and 6 others. The leaders, led by the majority leader in the House of Representatives, Honorable Hassan Doguwa, held a meeting with Governor Omar Ganduje at the Kano State Government House, where they deliberated on the number of delegates for the Congress and agreed to a consensus Congress.
All those who are supposed to go into this Congress, they already know.
And over at the National Assembly, following an investigation into a petition claiming that the NNPC awarded 11 contracts allegedly to a foreign company in violation of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Act, members of the House have issued a warrant on the private company, Unibros PLC, for failing to honor its invitations. Chairman of the Committee on Nigerian Content Development, Honorable Lego Idagbo, claims that the findings of the committee show that the company has no records of Nigerian origin and has continued to evade paying tax.
They are not known as a Nigerian company and they do not pay tax. This committee is recommending the issuance of a warrant that will compel the attendance of the MD, Unibros Shipping Company, before it on Thursday, the 21st of October.
earlier about the position of the National Economic Council in relation to the planned NSAS protest to commemorate the 1 year of the October 10 protest incident in Lagos. And these are some of the points that the NEC, the Economic Council raised today about meeting the demands and action that have been taken on the issue of NSAS, the disbandment of the SARS, the broad police reforms, establishment of judicial panels, recommendation of panels, including payment through victims' compensation funds, prosecution of police personnel indicted by the panels. Don't forget also that there are almost every state of the Federation had the panel constituted to look into some of these indictment or the allegations against some of these police officers. So let's tell you that tomorrow, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC will hold state congresses across the Federation to elect officials that will steer the affairs of the party in the state. That exercise, we understand, will be indirect primary across all of the state except cases where they have consensus arrangement. This is coming after the ward and local government congresses and the setting up of the appeal panels to treat issues of those who are aggrieved. Likewise, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, will also hold state congresses, but not in every state of the Federation. They will be holding theirs in 7 states, and these states are Oyo, Kwara, Lagos, Adamawa, Borno, Kebbi, and Ekiti State. This is a state where PDP will have the state congresses, and these congresses will be coming just a few days before the national convention, which will hold at the end of this month in Abuja. Now, to our major conversation tonight, everyone. A vocal and charismatic Pentecostal pastor and former vice presidential candidate of the defunct CPC and was running mate to President Buhari in the presidential election, Pastor Tunde Bakare has visited his former principal at the presidential villa in Abuja. After the meeting with the president, Pastor Bakare said restructuring Nigeria can take place without violence. He also says that Nigeria is better off as one nation, but such unity must be based on equity, justice, fair play, and the rule of law.
Lecture after lecture after lecture had been prepared and had made copies available to Mr. President. We need to do it to move this nation forward. The founding fathers of this nation, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, alongside with their entourage, in Lancaster House and everywhere, agreed on what type of government Nigeria should have. We must not change the goalposts in the midst of the game. We are better off together as a nation than going at different ways. Part of the State of the Nation address that I did on October 10, I emphasized how Nigerian youth, especially undergraduates, are disenfranchised in our country. 22.3 million students are registered, but during election, campuses are shut. They will not be able to return there to vote. They are therefore disenfranchised. If we can do not just transmitting results, but to be able to vote electronically, that would be wonderful. It would deepen and enhance our democracy. Not only that, the diaspora send about 25-point-something billion to Nigeria. Nigerian diaspora should also be able to vote.
So you heard Pastor Tunde Bakare there. And for those of you who have been following Pastor Tunde Bakare, especially the special interview we had with him on Channels Television, you know his view, you know his stance, you know what his thoughts are about what is happening in the APC government and President Muhammadu Buhari. He also spoke about 2023 election after that. That portion you may not be able to hear now. But those are some of the views that he has shared. But what are you What are your thoughts about this? Let's discuss some of the issues that he has raised. The issue of nationalism, the issues of 2023 presidency, the issue of elections and the reforms that we need to be seeing. Let's get some views tonight. I have some very distinguished and eminent Nigerians to discuss this with us. I'm being joined virtually by a former federal lawmaker, Senator Shehu Sani, and also Mr. Bala, a lawyer. Both of them are joining us virtually. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me first and foremost get your views, Senator Sani. What do you make of what Pastor Tunde Bakare said? I mean, a lot of us believe in the unity of this nation, and it says, look, going forward, things have to be done with fairness. Fair play has to be a major issue. Equity has to be considered. Your view on some of these thoughts?
Thank you for having me again on your program. Well, first of all, it is a bit confusing to tally the views of Pastor Bakare in his church with his position at the villa. But I can understand that he has a long-time relationship with President Muhammadu Buhari. Having said that, if I may not be wrong, I can remember the last time Pastor expressed his disenchantment and displeasure with the way the country is being run. And I think he also muted the idea of setting up a national movement similar to that of Save Nigeria, called Nigeria for Nigerians. And Nigerians shared him for that. Only today to see him in the villa. Whatever must have taken him there, if we are to ignore his visit and go to the content of what he has said, it is very right. There is need for justice, equity, unity, and his support for electronic voting, and also the issue of rotational presidency. But to me, if he has...
It seems we're having some connection issues with Senator Sani. Let me bring in Mr. Bala. Mr. Bala, if you can hear me, let me bring you into the conversation on what Pastor Tunde Bakare said. First and foremost, about the unity of this nation and the issues of fair play and equity.
Right. Thank you for having me, and good evening to your viewers. The unity of the country on the basis of the constitutional provision is indivisible and indissoluble, but also subject to negotiation and subject to political participation of every part of this country. So I allowed the decision or the utterance or the position of Pastor Tunde Bakare to that extent. My worry, however, is that just like Senator Shehu Sani opined at the beginning, oftentimes people judge you not just by what you say, sometimes by the position you take. It seems the visit and the conversation in Villa today appears to be a little bit different or contradictory to the various postulations he made on altar in his church, and especially the position he's taking regarding politics, regarding restructuring. But like Shehu Sani said, we must welcome the idea of engagement. And you know, he talked about justice and equity as the basis for the unity of the country. I agree, but the deeper conversation is that if you look at the Constitution, when the Constitution says the government must be constituted in a manner that it will reflect the unity of the country, but not a particular part of the country, maintaining dominance in the affairs of the government of the country. Probably in the coming days, when conversation continue to enlarge along and across various issues of national unity, it will be clear to us that for equity and for fairness to prevail, the idea of zoning has to be accepted and celebrated. And of course, political parties must pay deepest commitment to that. The reason is because, Sean, if you look at it, from the time immemorial, apart from a little moment where we have interregnum, and then some people emerge to position of power by happenstance, apart from this moment, power has been shifting between the Southwest and the Northwest. But the other parts of the country are meant to believe that power is moving between the South and the North. even the current conversation by the southern governors that power must move to the south, if you dig deep and you probe further, you will discover that the idea is that power should move to the southwest. Anytime the north makes an agitation for power to move to the north, you probe and you dig further, it is power move to the northwest. And that, to me, is not equity, is not fairness. And for us to be able to have equity and fairness for the purposes of national unity, political parties must deepen this internal democracy of zoning and ensuring that every part of the country is a part of government.
Let me bring back Senator Sani. I understand that we have him back. One of the areas that Pastor Bakari touched on is on the issue of rotation and the zoning arrangement in our politics, especially for the presidency. And a lot of people are talking about the 2023 presidency and how rotation or zoning will play a role. Or it described it simply as immature, the idea of wanting to rotate. Do you think, Senator, that it does matter to rotate or to zone? Could that consideration be a major factor in 2023?
I don't know if you have seen me.
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead, Senator.
All right. Rotational presidency is not constitutional because it has not been written in our constitution to rotate the presidency. But looking at the turbulence, the crisis, and the storm of our history, and the peculiarities of our history, and the need to do a lot in terms of ensuring the unity of the country is being sustained, that need to be observed. But gentleman agreement among politicians has never been honored most times. So to me, I believe that the idea of rotation is something that can...
Again, some obstruction there at Senator Shehu Sani's connection. But if Mr. Bala is still with us, what's your view on that issue of rotation and the view of Pastor Bakari? He says it's immature to talk about rotation as a major factor to determine who will lead this country.
Yes, but well, you know, okay, Shehu Sani is back. Let me continue.
I think Senator is back. Yeah, Senator, please go ahead.
Yeah, to me, I believe that both the northern and southern governors and political players, these are issues they can sit down, look at it, debate it, discuss it, and look at what is best for the unity, for the future of Nigeria, and implement it. But the way they are all drawing lines between North and South is not good for the peace, unity, and stability of this country as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Bala, what's your view? I've had lawyers argued on this program that if you say that zoning is not constitutional, that's a wrong position because the Constitution clearly provides that there should be equitable distribution of everything in the country. Would we say that zoning is not constitutional?
Well, the primary interpretation of the provision of Section 14, or is it 14 or 28 of the Constitution that says the government of the federation must be constituted in a manner that it will not reflect the dominance of one part of the country. If you look at the B part, it says for the purposes of commanding national unity and loyalty. In other words, if the government is not constituted to reflect the entirety of the nation in terms of constitution of government and governance, then what is likely going to happen is that there won't be national unity and there won't be loyalty. So the extreme interpretation to that is what you see in the Southeast, where people begin to agitate, believing that they are excluded from government. You know, disloyalty is when there is a perception that there is no nationalism in the government or in the affairs of leadership of the country. Now, that is the primary interpretation. But if you push the interpretation further, because some people will say that provision of the Constitution only, connotes appointing position, like appointment of government. That means that the president must make ministers, MDAs, ambassadors, all of the appointing position must reflect federal character. But the advanced interpretation of that is that it got into elective positions, because if political parties want to deepen democracy, democracy is hinged on fairness. Fairness is when there is equity. Equity is when everybody's voice is counted. Now, as is presently constituted, let me even tell you, Shehu, the reason this conversation is dragging is because the North is occupying the position of power. If you flip the side, assuming the South is in power and the Southern president is now in his second term, the agitation will come from the North that there is need for zoning, because if you do not enshrine that, any part of the country that comes into government is likely to stay there forever. In the same way that the Southwest and the Northwest are presently occupying, sharing power amongst themselves almost forever. That is the reason why zoning is very, very essential.
But I mean, the question is that should it be a basis for us deciding who leads this country? And we're at the critical point. Should it be the basis for deciding who leads this country?
Yes, I agree with you that we are at a critical point. But sometimes you analyze the problem. What is the problem? Is the problem just insecurity? Break down the insecurity further. What is causing the insecurity? So if you go to the Southeast, the immediate causation is a feeling that they are excluded. If you go to this North Central, there is already an agitation that they have never been factored in governance. Now, usually, perception will then come into demonstration of interest or aggregating your grudges or grievances. Those who are not matured in pushing it in an educated or in an enlightened way will then take laws into their hands. So you cannot take away the idea of zoning or rotation simply because the subject of conversation anytime zoning is raised is competence. You can still zone within the parameters of competence. So that is to say, if you zone the power to the South, bring competent people from the South. If you zone it to the North, bring competent people from the North. The minute a part of the country does not feel they are part of government, the Constitution itself says it will result in disloyalty and lack of unity.
Senator Shehu, Sani, what's your view on that? Zoning, competency.
Well,
what do we need in 2023?
Well, we can have both, where all parts of Nigeria are blessed with competent leaders that can steer the ship of Nigerian state to future, for progress. As far as I'm concerned, I come from a part of the country that is virtually under the siege of terrorists and bandits. As I'm speaking to you now, it is difficult for me to move 1 kilometer outside of my own city without getting into the hands of terrorists. So for me and my people, I believe that whoever is going to lead this country and provide security, protect our people, guarantee the safety of our people and our family, we welcome it. But if you look at the problems we face as a country today, the separatist agitation, the nepotism, the crisis, the violence, and the bloodshed, I think rotation of power will address a number of issues. But if you look at it, where should power be rotated from the North and the South? My brother there is interpreting. I think to solve this problem, this needs to be clearly stated in our Constitution. And it should be written in the language that there will be no interpretation, whether it is Igbo, is Hausa, is Yoruba, is Ijo. If the presidency is in the North for 8 years, it should be in the South for 8 years, so that there will be no need for a lawyer or legal luminary to explain these things to us. So if we are going to sustain this country, justice, equity, fair play, and ensuring one part of the country does not dominate power for a very long time is necessary. But it cannot be done on the altar of threats and intimidation. These are issues that can be resolved between the political elites in the North and the South on a table for the unity and for the peace of Nigeria. But if we keep on threatening that if you don't do this thing, we will do this thing, nobody is going to bow to anything.
It's interesting because as we're going on now, tomorrow now we have APC and PDP, they're holding state congresses. And some of these issues will come to play when they come to Abuja for their national convention. Already we saw what the position of the PDP Northern Leaders Forum, what they did yesterday or day before yesterday, where they had Senator Yocha Ayu as a consensus candidate. Let me get your view on that, Senator Sani. It does look like even before the National Convention, the PDP already knows who the national chairman is.
Yeah, consensus saves a lot of things. It saves people from spending money, wasting too much time, the acrimony of politics and the bitterness that comes in after that. So consensus is a good step forward. And if we have Ayosha Ayu as it is now, and it is confirmed that he's the chairman, let it be. But the most important thing, something novel the party has done, is opening the floor for any Nigerian from any part of the country to contest the presidency. If that is the consensus of the party and it will bring peace, so be it. So it's now left for those who want to contest to reach out to the delegates. I believe that is a good thing to do, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So let me...
Mr. Bala, consensus also is not a PDP. It's not causing uproar in the PDP. It's also causing some issues in your party, which we discussed a few days ago. But consensus will probably be a dead terminology or a dead principle if what the National Assembly is going to do on the Electoral Act amendment is passed. Is they're considering direct mode of primaries.
You know, a political party by law have powers to, enact their own constitution, to bring regulations that will help the party, achieve its end. But above political party is the powers of the National Assembly, because political parties do not enjoy the position of the legislative branch of government under Section 4. And so if the National Assembly enacts a law that mandates direct primaries, then political parties must conform to the new law. But if the National Assembly now says it should be either direct or indirect or consensus, because that was in fact how consensus arrangement and indirect arrangement came into being in political parties. It was after enactment in a status. So the powers of the National Assembly to enact law is superior to the political party. But let me digress to tell you, to react to what my dear elder brother Senator Shehu said. Sometimes when a politician makes a statement, you need to know where his political interest lies. I'm not saying that to denigrate Pastor Tunde Bakare, but to state the fact that there are sets of people you will meet now. They will tell you the reason why Pastor Tunde Bakare is saying there is no need for zoning. It is because they are mulling the idea of El Rufai Bakare ticket in 2023. Because if that is the case, then that means the idea of zoning will work against him, because the South will demand that it be zoned to the South. But it then brings back the same issue I said when I started. It will still come back to the reputation of the Northwest and Southwest continuing the dominance, which runs, smack of the provisions of the Constitution that talks about political participation. If I bring it down to the Honorable Senator Shehu Sani, the reason why he's also not vociferous in attacking the idea of zoning is because his own political party at the moment, they do not want to zone the presidency. So when politicians take positions, the journalists should read between the lines.
We are reading very much in between the lines. And I mean, Nigerians also even know some of these things. They are not oblivious of some of the issues. But we take a break, everyone. We get some other views. Stay with me, Senator Shehu Sani and Mr. Daniel Bala. We come back and we expand the conversation. We get some other views of those who have also threw their hat in the ring and what has become of the situation in Nigeria's politics and the way forward. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. We've been speaking with Senator Shehu Sani, who has been with us virtually from Kaduna, and Mr. Daniel Bala, who is also in the virtual space with us in Abuja. Stay with me, gentlemen. Let's bring in yet another view. Engineer Noah Dallaji, a politician and businessman, joins us now to lend his voice into the conversation. Thank you so much, and Dallaji, for joining us tonight. First and foremost, let me get your view on the 2023 presidency. This issue of zoning. Do you think zoning should be considered at all?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean, for having me first. I listened to Senator Shehu, Sani, and Daniel Bala, and also the comment from Tunde Bakare. You see, when you talk about zoning, everybody has his own view. Well, for the sake of incorporation, I think the zoning should take place because the Northerners are not the only people who can rule this country forever. And also, if you are talking about competence, so we're talking about two things now, zoning and also competence. So in my own view, I think the zoning should take place. We're having Buhari right now as the president of Nigeria, and by the grace of God, he's going to be true in 2 years' time. So the president should come from the South. And also, let's see what they have on the table.
So when you say South, a lot of people will ask the question, where in the South?
It doesn't really matter because if you do political calculation right now, the South has ruled Nigeria more than the North. And I'm sure so many people will ask me how, and I'll tell you. Now, if you look at 1999, Obasanjo was the president of this country for 8 years. And Yaradua took over from him 2 years, and then he died. And Jonathan took over from him and spent 6 years. Now, if you calculate it, it's a total of 12 years the Southern are ruling Nigeria. Now, Buhari is now going to the 7 years.
Yeah,
the 7 years.
So we would have done 8 years,
8 years.
In 2023.
So if you put it together, that means the North has ruled for 10 years, while the South has ruled for 12 years. But even though I came from the North, I am on the view that they should get a president from the South. It doesn't matter whether it's come from the Southeast, whether it comes from the Southwest, whether it comes from the South-South. Let the president come from the South because they are also Nigeria, part of Nigeria. And Sean, I want to tell you something that is causing this zoning issue. One thing that people doesn't do is now we have the president from the North. So maybe the Southerners are not happy with the way the Northern are behaving, believing that, okay, we have the power, we can do this, we can do that, we can intimidate you, we can do that. I believe if there is incorporation, even in this government that is happening, this zoning issue will not even come. So the Southern might want to take over to be sure that, okay, let me also take the power so that I can include my people in governance and something. If you look at people who are working in different places, maybe somebody will feel, oh, I'm from the Southeast, my people are not represented. I'm from the South-South, my people are not represented. Why is it always is from the North? So sometimes they say, okay, if that's the case, let us also resist the power and get. So my view is, I believe in rotation, the power should move to the South-South.
To the South?
Yes, to the South, sorry.
Okay, not minding what some of the Igbo brothers are saying about the fact that they have been marginalized. In fact, the conversation has come to the point that some people will say, look, if it goes to the Southeast, it will douse the tension in the Southeast. Do you think that the Southeast should be given a priority when the consideration goes to the South?
Definitely, because they are also part of this country. For me, the South-South, if they can gather themselves together.
The
Southeast, sorry. Not the South-South, the Southeast. They should be given the power. They are also part of this country. If I have to advocate for the power, who the power should be given to, I think I'm going to advocate for my own side because I came from the Northeast and we have never produced a president. You know, the first prime minister, yes, he's come from Nigeria. Since then, we don't have any. The only high position we have held is that of Atiku as the vice president in 1999. So, but in fairness, let's also look at other angles of the country. And then let's start thinking about Southeast.
Some other people, will, even North Central. You are from the Northeast.
Yes.
I had a guest from here yesterday from the North Central.
Okay.
Who also feel the same way, that not in the history of our democratic dispensation that a North Central person has ruled this country. So everybody seems to have their own grievance about whether or not it should come to us. But the big question, Engineer Dallaji, tonight is, should issue of ethnicity or issue of zoning be paramount in determining who leads this nation?
Not at all. You see, that's the major problem we are having in our governance today. democracy is not about ethnicity. It's not about zone. I mean, it's not about where you come from. It's not about religion. Now, we are talking about competence here. But in every region also, there must be a competent person. Now, they have the power now in their hand. President Buhari is the president. And the Southwest, where they bring the vice president. So I think for me, it should go to the Southeast or the South-South. Even though Buhari took over from somebody who came from the South-South, the former President Goodluck Jonathan, but the Southeast also should be given opportunity to rule the country. That is, if they can bring themselves together and come out with a candidate who is effective that can rule this country.
Let me take you quickly to a very important issue that will also determine the election of 2023 is the issue of the amendment to the Electoral Act. The issue of the transmission of results, it was a major issue in the National Assembly. Asatunde Bakare raised that issue too and he said, look, we need to even have electronic voting. Because he gave an example of students who are in school where during the election, they are chased out of school, they're at home, and they are being disenfranchised. That is his view. On the issue of electronic voting or electronic transmission, what's your view on that?
My view is I give kudos to INEC and also the National Assembly for making that happen. Because Sean, I'll tell you, I'm also a victim of this indirect primary election. In 2011, I ran for the House of Representatives in my constituency, Bauchi State. And after 2 years, after 1 year, some of the delegates meet me and told me, "Sir, we just want to confess and forgive, and we ask you to forgive us." I said, "For what?" He said, "Look, we are under pressure that we must bring so person back to the house. And if we do not vote for him, they are going to burn our houses, they're going to do that, they're going to do that." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." So now, what does that tell you? The governors has the power to decide who become the candidate. And also, of course, the people has the power to decide who win the election. So, but with this direct primary, the people will come out, even though they have their own disadvantage, the both of them has advantage and disadvantage, because they can still have maneuver their way to do something, but it will reduce the rigging entirely. So for me, I think the amendment is a good thing, which it will give opportunity to so many people to go for election. And that will tell you, if you have no business to go, if you have not with the people, just know that you don't need to go there because they're not going to vote for you. And the people who think, okay, I have the people in my hand, but I don't have the money because Nigerian politics now, you must have money in your hand to go and seek for election. And that's why a lot of credible people are not going to seek for any election because they are afraid, oh, I don't have money to give these people. And then after everything, they will turn it and then give it to another person who is not credible. And that's why we're having the problem we're having today. So what is happening, like what Tunde Bakari said, I support what he's saying and also support what the INEC has just brought. I hope that the governors and the political leaders, because when you count about zoning, candidacy or whatever, it all depends on the parties. The party can decide to say, oh, we have decided so person is our candidate, is going to be the candidate of this. That does not make him the president or anything. He can go and he can go and contest under the platform of social party. But the question here is, will the governors now respect and follow the due process to make sure that they allow the people to come and choose their candidate for themselves? Because that's the major problem we have in this country. People want so person to become a candidate, but the governor wants so person to become a candidate.
So governors are a major factor.
They are the major factors when it comes to candidacy in the primary level.
Did the governor worked against your emergence?
Sure, yes. Because the governor wanted a particular candidate. So, he told the people, oh, this is the person that we must bring because we are told to bring him from the top.
So, you think that this effort of direct primaries is a way of taming what some people have termed the arbitrariness, the excessive powers of governors? Is that the situation?
Exactly. It will take over the power from the governor's hand now, back to the people. Now, the ball is in the people's court now to decide who they want to vote. But there's a problem there. INEC must ensure that they monitor all this election. Because without the INEC being monitoring it, they can come and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and went and write this and say, okay, this is the winner. It will continue. So, but if we have INEC officials The question now is that how many officials the INEC has?
Because it's going to be at every ward.
That's the problem.
That's a logistic problem.
That's the major problem we're going to face. But in this country, Sean, we have a lot of people who are credible, who are effective, who can run this country very well, who can turn this country to become a better place that we all dream for. Because the kind of hope we have is a reversal of what we hope for. If you see what is happening in the country today, it's not something that anybody wants to see. Today, we're talking about security here. Everything is about the people and the governance. So
well, that's why some of you, you are a businessman, you're a politician on the side too. Are you thinking of running for president someday?
Of course, it's my country, and I could decide to run for presidency even in 2003. 2023.
You're from Bauchi State. You just said that the zoning should go to South.
No, I'm just telling you, I could decide to run if the zoning, if they decide to say, okay, everybody, because what I'm trying to say here is that most of the people, if you see the problem is happening in PDP, they said, okay, any president can come from anywhere. They can decide to bring it from the north, from the south, from the west. There is no specific direction of, okay, we're having the party chairman from the north central, southeast or south-south should produce the president. But they said the president can come from anywhere.
Your governor, Bala Muhammad, his name has been thrown up at those who are likely to throw their hat in the ring. Are you aware of that?
Well, I heard about that he wants to run for presidency, even though he has not said it, because I know if he wants to run for presidency, definitely he will have even told me. I mean, I have a personal relationship with him. But I heard it from the air, people are saying it. Well, if that is what he wants to do, so be it. But the question now is, I don't want to see the president from the north. I want to see the president from the south because we are not the only people in this country that should be ruling this country.
Let me ask you, do you consider yourself a young person in Nigeria?
Well, when you say a young person, what do you mean by the determination?
Youth, I mean, if you say, are you still a youth?
Yes, I'm a youth. I'm a young person.
Because the definition of youth in Nigeria is sometimes very mistaken in a lot of sense. And I'm asking you that question because NEC just said those who are planning the NSAS protest should rethink the idea. And the youth make a huge chunk of our population. Not only that, the voting population is dominated by the youth. But unfortunately, economically, and even politically, the youth are sidelined. What do you think we can do in fixing that gap? Human capital development and the youth engagement. How do you think we can go about it?
Well, if you have been following some of the programs that I have been running this year, it's all about how do we incorporate the young people. And I have an NGO. All what I'm after is how the young people should be incorporated in governance. Now, talking about NSAS, what brought about NSAS is frustration. Because so many young people in this country have not been incorporated. We have a lot of young people who are capable, who are effective, who can do a lot of things, but nobody even think about them simply because they don't know somebody and somebody they have to know somebody. You know, we have a lot of graduates who have first-class degree. I mean, they have their certificate, but they don't have job. We have a lot of people now, even those who are committing cybercrime, they used to talk about cybercrime. It tells you that those are educated people. Most of these people, they got themselves into this kind of thing because of frustration. And that's why we need a leader who has the fear of God, who know that, okay, I'm not the president of PDP, neither am the president of the North, or I'm the president of APC, or any other political party, but I am the chief commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It means every Nigerian is my subject. Now, the first job for every commander-in-chief is to keep the people safe. That's the first job. So if you realize that and you know that you must protect every Nigerian, then this sentiment of, oh, my party is in power, therefore I must take care of my people first who have voted me into power before talking to another person, is what is causing problem. The first thing that needs to be done, the young people must be incorporated. If every nation in the world wants to be in peace, if the young people are not incorporated, there's always going to be a problem.
All right. Let me, engineer, let's take a moment and bring back our friends who are on the virtual space with us, Senator Sani and Mr. Bala. Senator Shehu Sani, the youth make up a huge chunk of the voting population, even the general vote, general population in the country. But it does look like they are left behind. Are they left behind in the real sense of it, or what exactly is happening? And if you look at it, how can they be engaged in 2023? Are they not rising up to the occasion, or what?
Well, you see the disinterest on the side of our young people on the situation in the country and the leadership in the country piled up over the years because of disappointment and the failure of successive governments, the political establishment, to address their needs, their wants, and also their future. The state is increasingly becoming narrow, whereby power and political dynasties are constructed along the lines, bloodlines of those in position of power. So if you look at young people in Nigeria today, they have expressed more interest in even voting in this reality show called BB Niger. You see hundreds of millions of them having interest in that than the political reality and future of their country. So it is in the interest of this nation that those in the position of political power, the political elite, must devise ways and means to encourage young people to vote and have interest in their country. And then, if we don't do that, they will naturally express their displeasure through protests and open mass rallies against the system and the government, like the NSAS that has happened. NSAS is an effect. It's an effect of years of injustice, iniquity, abject neglect by the state and successive governments in the country. And young people have no way of expressing themselves other than to stand up and protest. So NSAS recharged Nigeria, it electrified Nigeria. It sent a clear message to the political establishment that if you don't do the right thing, if you don't reconfigure and reset Nigeria, the whole country will go into blazes. So naturally, for this country to move to the right path, young people must have interest in who leads them and the process of electing leaders into government. So, and that need to be encouraged by those in government.
Mr. Bala, what are your views? The youth, do they need to rise up, or the space need to be created for them to be able to also operate? Is Mr. Bala still with us? Okay, Mr. Bala, if you can hear me, the same question I threw to Senator Shehu Sani on the youth inclusion in politics and the scheme of things. There is a sector of the nation's population that feel marginalized. What do you think should be done? Should we create space for them, or they need to create a space for themselves?
Well,
I'm not sure we're able to
answer
right
this
now. Well, I'd like us to conclude this conversation tonight. There is yet a very interesting perspective to the issue of zoning and rotation. So if you look at those who have ruled Nigeria from 1960, including the military intervention, you will discover that we had more military men from the north than the south. I mean, you are making the argument that from 1999 we've had more southerner spend more years in presidency than the north. But some people will argue that you've had the likes of Ibrahim Babangida from the north central, you have Sani Abacha from the northwest, you have in 1979 where we had Shagari. But the argument is that we have more northerners that have ruled during the military era, and all put together, more northerners that have ruled. So in your argument in that sense?
We have a new dispensation now, political and democratic dispensation. For me, the military era is gone, so we are talking about democracy. So let's be talking about democracy instead of the military, because, okay, maybe it would have been, at that time, those are the people who are qualified to become the president from the north or from somewhere. Don't forget, General Ibrahim Babangida was instrumental to Obasanjo becoming the president of Nigeria in 1999. And
really?
Of course, you know that, I know that, many people know about that. And also, why did he have to bring Obasanjo? Because he believes that, okay, Abdusalami Abubakar is from the north. And now we have to bring somebody from the south to become the president. And now we have democracy. So let's start practicing democracy. You see, sometimes, Sean, I have the privilege of traveling to about 170 countries in this world, but I have not seen a country that is so blessed like Nigeria. But the major problem we have now is governance. And this governance we are talking about is we as the people that can change everything that we want to change to make it better for everybody. We don't have any other country to go to. And of course, nobody is happy from the generation of Goodluck, Yaradua, even Obasanjo to this. Nobody is happy. Nobody is happy from what is happening in this country. Today, Nigeria is supposed to be the giant of Africa, as they said, but we are not. If you go to Ghana, they are even better than Nigeria now.
In what sense?
In every sense. They are more coordinated. In fact, even though, of course, every country has its own problem, but I can assure you that I've been there several times. Things that I saw there, if you arrive at the airport, from the airport, you will know that you are in a different country. Everything is done coordinated. But everything in this country is about corruption. Everybody wants to be corrupt. How do we make this country to work? So it's time now. We are facing another election for the people of this country to think and make sure that anybody that is going to come as the president of Nigeria should be somebody who fears God. That's the number one thing that should happen. And the person must be effective and also has a temperament of leadership.
All right.
Otherwise, we'll continue to have problems in this nation.
On a final note, Senator Shehu Sani, what's your final thought on the way that we need to go going forward?
Well, my final thought is that we have come a long way as a country, and we must do everything possible to avert violence, bloodshed, and war by
We lost the connection with Senator Shehu Sani, but that's how we end the show today. But I must sincerely thank my guests tonight, from Mr. Daniel Bala, lawyer and member of the Lincoln's Inn, Senator Shehu Sani, a former senator who has been with us virtually from Kaduna, and engineer Noah Dallaji, a politician and a businessman. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. We look forward to the congresses of the APC and the PDP. We're covering them for you right here on Channels Television. So stay with us. We are here, your nation's news leader. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sure Kimberly